That's not too bad. It always takes me a few minutes to adjust the angle so that I'm actually not bad at framing, because I did do a course on video cinematography, but it's different when you're filming yourself with a selfie stick. So I'm actually sick at home, but I just wanted to do a video because it occurred to me that I could talk a little bit about making candles, actually not making candles, but coloring them. Because I know that a lot of people, especially if they're following the Wicca tradition, certain spells call for candles of a certain color. And sometimes you might have only access to white candles. I know that where I lived in India, that we couldn't really buy red candles or green candles or blue candles. It was pretty much white. And very occasionally I would see big holiday candles for Diwali that might be pink or something, but and of course there are some spells that call for black candles, which is one of the trickiest. And sometimes I could I could send away to Oroville for colored candles, but those are also scented. So if you're getting black candles, they have opium scented for black, and it's pretty strong. It depends if you want that kind of, and maybe that conflicts with your ritual. I mean, maybe you have a ritual that calls for a black candle, but then you're wanting to use dragon's blood incense, and opium doesn't really mix with that. Anyway, so I had discovered some methods of coloring white candles on my own using natural pigments, and I think it's you can also use, obviously you can also use like watercolor, but the main problem with candles, of course, is that they're wax. They're an oil-based kind of thing, so it's tricky to find a pigment that is not toxic, so that when you're burning it, you're not asphyxiating yourself. So obviously you don't want to use any kind of oil paints. Aside from the toxic issue, your whole candle also is going to burn, assuming that it doesn't explode, it's going to burn very quickly. And you should get like about 5 minutes out of your ritual, basically. So I had discovered that while you can't just paint watercolor onto your candle, what you can do is if you apply the pigment onto it, it forms into all these droplets, and then if you rub it in, it actually absorbs the pigment. I guess the wax gets a little bit hot from the friction, and then so it melts a little bit, and it kind of grabs onto the pigment. Meanwhile, the action of rubbing also causes the water to evaporate. So you end up with this slightly blotchy but quite cool looking clouded color effect. And but in the case of using watercolors, you want to make sure that you know what sort of ingredients were used to create those pigments, so that once again you're not using something toxic. Some other things are, there is a plant called the blue bean. I cannot remember what it's called in Hindi, but I know that the product that they sell is called Ujala because it's used in laundry. And basically, if you look at history all over the world, the economy seems to, at certain times in history, have been driven by the search for blue dye pigment, because I know that the Phoenicians made a killing off of their oyster blue dye that they used to get from the ocean. And that's how that kind of cobalt indigo blue became known as royal blue. I know that the Renaissance painters, when they were doing the triptychs, they actually used to grind down lapis lazuli, and I don't know what kind of adhesive they used to mix it with, but that's a gemstone basically that they were using to create the pigment for blue. So I guess blue is quite hard to get in nature. And then when the British Empire occupied India, there was a huge industry for growing this crop, the blue bean in Bengal. And I think that they mistreated the workers a lot, so there was an uprising. And I have a battery notice. I thought 30% was enough to do a video, but hang on a second.